Chapter 21 Can I Be Your Only Carnation Goddess? R18 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xianxia had placed Saintess Xianxia on the bed with her naked jaded legs widely opened, and he had also jumped on the bed. Then he had started to grip her hips upward so that he could now have a fully view of both of her Holy Land sceneries as he admired from the top. Saintess Xianxia was flustered as she knew that Xianxia was now staring at both of her Holy Lands. Not only that, he could also see her two slopping full milky breasts that had flowed down to touch her chin. Indeed, Xianxia had reached out for his hands to grasp her two flexible breasts, and he had started to play with her nipples with his fingers while using his body to support himself. After that, he was suddenly putting his face down slowly to lick her two Holy Lands. Saintess Xianxia was startled as she gasped, "Xianxia, what are you doing?" This was something that had never happened before, and she had never experienced something like this before, but she was suddenly enjoying this new intense pleasure while mounting a weak defense. "Xianxia, stop, please stop." She could feel her peachy slits leaking now and was opening under Xianxia's attack. She gasped in her heart, where did he learn all these from? Xianxia was not only attacking her first Holy Land with his tongue, but he was also attacking her second Holy Land. This was too much for her to bear. Soon, she could feel her lewd waters were opening like a floodgate on Xianxia's face as her first Holy Land was burst opened by his licks. The feeling was so intense and lingering that her delicate body kept rising and falling lightly from every intense stroke that was coming from of Xianxia's licks. She was already giving out soft heavy panting sounds as her lewd waters began to flow down her body and into her breasts and face. But still Xianxia did not stop, and suddenly he had stood up to penetrate her from the slippery top. Saintess Xianxia could feel his thing inside her now, and it had even touched her flower petals. "Fian, you are so beautiful and wet," Xianxia muttered, and then he was suddenly wantonly thrusting his thing deep into her, in and out multiple times and each time touching her flower petals. Saintess Xianxia's soft panting had become loud and lewd as she coyly moaned non-stop like a horny slut. Her lewd waters kept flowing out and the sheets were all wet. After hundreds of thrusts, both Saintess Xianxia and Xianxia had both reached their climaxes, and Saintess Xianxia could feel the hot springs that were within her were overflowing. Xianxia had suddenly withdrawn from her and had bended her body toward her face more. This caused all the lewd waters and yang essence from Xianxia to pour into her opened mouth and face. Saintess Xianxia could not believe that she was eating her own lewd juices. Her first Holy Land was suddenly trembling because Xianxia was suddenly licking her opened Holy Land, and she was trembling uncontrollably. This caused her nipples to be enlarged further and become straighter, while more of her lewd juices were spurting out uncontrollably. Xianxia had suddenly switched to the 69 position, and he had pressed his thing into her mouth while not letting off of her bottom. They were now eating from each other as they sunk into depraved pleasures. Time quickly passed and soon they had switched positions again. This time Saintess Xianxia was sitting on top of Xianxia. She was riding him slowly while swinging her butt as she rode him. At the same time she was holding hands with Xianxia. Their movements were gentle and compatible like a pair of true lovers. Hours passed and they had climaxed one time after another. Finally Saintess Xianxia was resting herself on Xianxia's body, and there was a hint of satisfaction in her golden eyes as though her soul had been torn into countless pieces. After Saintess Xianxia's extreme orgasm, her whole body was completely paralyzed. Her white skin was now as bright pink as a pink carnation rose, and her usual cool white nephrite jade body was warmed with the lusty fragrance of their juices. Their last few copulation acts were actually very innocent, and even Xianxia was feeling a weird sense of emotion attachment to her. Saintess Xianxia exhaustingly muttered as she collapsed dreamily into Xianxia, "Xianxia, I really want to be your Carnation Goddess, and to be your only woman. Is that possible?" There were shimmering tears that were forming in her closed eyelids as she muttered dreamily, while her slender white jaded leg was still clamping onto Xianxia's legs tight while he was still deep inside her first Holy Land. Shenlai had pretended to be asleep from exhaustion, but he could actually heard her voice as she lay quietly in his arms, humming constantly with her panting, as if she was reminiscing about their extreme pleasures earlier. Fian, I wish that you are my Carnation Goddess as well. Among the 7 saintesses, only you are the most innocent-minded among them all. But I can't abandon the Tao of my heart. How would he not know that Saintess Xianxia actually loves him so dearly? Or else why would he be so delighted at seeing her again? Chapter 22 A Crowded Night, 1, You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shenlai and Saintess Xianxia were in each other's deep embrace, and none of them dared to disturb the peace between them or to mention about their past relationships. There was a sudden knock that came from the other end of the abode. Now Shenlai's abode was not exactly small, there was the main hall, the inner courtyard and an outer court as well. In the past, when the Holy Maiden's sanctuary was more prosperous, this little abode could even house 10 cultivators in the main hall. However, the main hall only got one big bed now. Both Shenlai and Saintess Xianxia were alarmed. Who would it be? A demure voice was heard. Shenlai, are you there? I am Nangong Shu. I can hear movements inside. May I come in? Shenlai was startled, and so was Saintess Xianxia. Is there a good hiding place? Saintess Xianxia was suddenly whispering to Shenlai. As long as she did not display her profound animus and had halted her breathing, she would not be discovered. Shenlai pulled her gently down, under the bed. It is safe. Saintess Xianxia nodded as she quickly gathered her clothing to hide under the bed. There was no time for her to clothe herself. Shenlai quickly ran to the outer court with a soft chuckle as he opened the door. Maiden Nangong Shu, you are here. It was indeed Nangong Shu, and she was only wearing a thin bodice similar to what she was wearing previously. So the length of her skirt was really short, and Shenlai could even see her half-moon naked bosoms on top of her bodice. Nangong Shu looked at his messy robe and asked curiously, you don't welcome me anymore, or is it only a one-night stand between the two of us? After all, I am only one maiden out of your 3,000 conquests. Shenlai quickly smiled, of course not. Can't you see that I am sleeping? I like to sleep naked, you see. Ha. Lo, then he quickly held on to her slim waist. I really miss you. You are as beautiful as a celestial maiden, and I wish that you can always be in my company. Nangong Shu turned flustered with great shyness. You have seen our Saintess Xianxia today. Between the two of us, who is the prettier? Shenlai answered immediately, naturally it is my Nangong Shu. No one else can be compared with your peerless looks. When he had said that, Nangong Shu was lowering her glances in deep flushes now. As for Saintess Xianxia, she had overheard him and she was hoping mad while naked under his bed. She thought angrily that she would actually be inferior to Nangong Shu. Shenlai had suddenly put his hands between her 2 jaded slender legs. Because her skirt was so short, he had made contact with her white panties immediately, and he was soon rubbing her from there. Nangong Shu was startled as she whispered, let's go in first. We are still outside. As she said that, her white panties had already become a little damp. Shenlai nodded as he let her enter his abode. However, when he saw that she was swaying her butt in front of him, he could not resist putting his hands on her butt. Nangong Shu coyly said as she increased her pace to walk into the hall where Shenlai's bed was. Later. I will let you admire later. Shenlai was delighted. As soon as Nangong Shu was inside the hall, Shenlai had immediately hugged her tightly and he had pulled down her bodice to expose her milky white perked bosoms. Shenlai gasped at the wondrous sight as he groped her beasts. I really miss you, my beloved Nangong Shu. Saintess Xianxia was now cursing Shenlai under the bed. Shenlai, how dare you fool around when I am around, and moreover you have dared to say she is more beautiful than me. All of a sudden Nangong Shu had pushed him aside and said coldly, why is your bed so wet? Who has been here? Shenlai began to stammer with guilt in his eyes, no one has been here. Nangong Shu was really hurt now and she was really angry as she raised her fist. I am asking you now. Whose lewd juices are these? Do you think I can't tell the difference between male and female lewd juice? She was giving Shen Lai one last chance to admit his guilt. Shen Lai protested weakly, I really don't know. Nangong Shu was so enraged by Shen Lai's stubborn lies that she had raised her hand to slap him now. But all of a sudden Shen Lai had caught hold of her slapping hand. We should never use violence. Nangong Shu had suddenly kicked Shen Lai and had sent him flying toward the end of the hall. She was gasping now because she actually did not want to hurt him. When she saw that he could catch her hand, she was quite angry and therefore she had used more force on her kick. But she had never expected that Shen Lai could not even evade a simple kick. Just as she was about to help him up by flashing to him, she was startled to see that Shen Lai had picked himself up and he did not appear to be hurt. We should be civil, you know. Saintess Xianxia was giggling silently because she knew that it was actually impossible for a revolving core cultivator like Nangong Shu to actually hurt Shen Lai in unarmed combat. This Shen Lai had huge reserves of internal profound strength that could tank hits easily save for profound arts and the attacks of high-level cultivators. Nangong Shu was startled that Shen Lai was not hurt because she had accidentally used too much profound power on her kick. You are all right. Shen Lai laughed weakly, I am hurt everywhere. Saintess Xianxia was cursing Shen Lai silently. Nangong Shu, don't fall for his tricks. Half of the time, he isn't serious. He is only playing you. Nangong Shu did not care for her modesty and she had quickly gone to comfort Shen Lai with a soft concern, where are you hurting? Shen Lai muttered, everywhere. I need massage from you. Saintess Xianxia growled silently under the bed. Shen Lai, you are too shameless. You don't even feel painful. Let this saintess teaches you the real meaning of pain instead. The reason why she knew he was pretending was because he had tried the same old trick on her all too many times with his weak scholarly look. Just as Nangong Shu was about to massage Shen Lai, there was a knock at the outer court and a beautiful voice was heard saying, Shen Lai, are you in there? I heard something inside. Shen Lai was startled because he had recognized the voice to be Elder Xianxia. Nangong Shu had also turned ashen, don't let her know that I am in here. I can't use my profound animus to run away or else she would know that it is me. Shen Lai quickly said to her, go under my bed. It is safe there. No wait. He had suddenly remembered that Saintess Xianxia was under the bed too and just as he was about to stop Nangong Shu, it was already too late. Nangong Shu was a high-level cultivator and she had already sped under the bed. But all of a sudden she had frozen in place inside, it was because she could suddenly see the naked Saintess Xianxia staring at her. Nangong Shu was also shocked to see her Saintess Xianxia under the bed and moreover she was also naked. Her first thought was that Shen Lai had been banging her Saintess Xianxia just now and that explained all the lewd juices. Saintess Xianxia was also speechless because she had only known today that Nangong Shu and Shen Lai actually had a secret relationship with each other. Another reason why she was speechless was that she was caught in the bed or rather under the bed by her right protector Nangong Shu. Both maidens were now cursing Shen Lai silently. Shen Lai, why don't you die? This is most awkward. Chapter 23 A Crowded Night, 2, you are listening at novelfull.audio. When Shen Lai opened the gate of the outer court to welcome Xianxia, he was feeling awkward but he was immediately delighted to see Xianxia. Xianxia was really too beautiful or else she would not be renowned as the top 30 most beautiful maidens in the Fenghua Great Continent. Moreover, she really had rounder and fuller bosoms for Shen Lai to feast upon greedily. Also Xianxia was actually his first time that he had tasted the forbidden fruit. In the past, he was never curious about it. But that old man had told him that he needed to gain some experience first if he wanted to take his vengeance and to make the 7 saintesses into his depraved slaves. That was when he had decided to try it on Xianxia. Actually, Xianxia was never someone who would use force on a maiden, so he was just trying his luck with his charms, and he had never expected that he would be so irresistible to Xianxia. He smiled as soon as he saw Xianxia, elder Xianxia. Your protégé Xianxia pays my respect to you. Xianxia had a deep flush as she pulled him to her. Do you think that after that day, I will still be your elder? I have lost my first time to you. Although her voice was soft, both Saintess Xianxia and Nangong Shu could hear her clearly, and they were cursing Xianxia silently. You have dared to even bang elder Xianxia and didn't let her off your wicked hooks. But Nangong Shu was also awkward. It was because Xianxia had actually told her that Saintess Xianxia and elder Xianxia were his women. As for Saintess Xianxia, she had actually known about Xianxia's relationship with Xianxia and had purposely sent her some busy tasks for the last few days so that she would not have the chance to meet Xianxia. Now she was cursing that her tasks were too little. Xianxia smiled as she entered the courtyard with Xianxia, and she was dressed in her usual elder robe. As she entered the courtyard, she was feeling flustered because Xianxia was already putting his hand on the back of her waist. And she was also flustered because she was feeling damp below her. She had looked for Xianxia because she wanted to become his wanton maiden tonight. But as soon as she entered the hall, her flushed countenance began to give way, and she had pointed to the wet bed. Whose whore's lewd juices are those? Xianxia awkwardly said, this is actually my sweat. In winter. Xianxia hummed coldly, and do you think that I can't differentiate between the fragrant between the male and the female lewd juices? Tell me, who is this whore? There was a twitch on Saintess Xianxia's peerless countenance when she had heard her very own elder calling her a whore. I would be a whore. Both of you are dead. Nangong Shu had the most awkward look when Saintess Xianxia was suddenly looking at her silently, as though she was saying, worse come to worse, I will kick you out of the bed and you will be that whore. Saintess Xianxia was naturally thinking of her own reputation, and it was perfectly justifiable for her to make Nangong Shu into her scapegoat. Xianxia had suddenly smiled to Xianxia, my Xianxia, you are the most beautiful maiden in this world. Don't give me that. Xianxia interrupted him, who is she? Is she still in this place? Xianxia, I am so disappointed in you. Do you know, because of you, how much humiliation that I have to go through? She was naturally not referring to her humiliation by Xianxia but to Fairy Yuyuan, and it was to her that she was now betraying her own Saintess Xianxia. For Xianxia, she was willing to give up even her elder position, but he had actually betrayed her to be with another maiden. Xianxia hurtfully looked away, and there were tears in her eyes now. You are never serious about me. Xianxia immediately protested, I am serious about you. Saintess Xianxia had heard Xianxia, and she was now scolding him silently. Don't believe his ghost story on this. He also says he is serious about all the 7 sister saintesses. Xianxia hummed softly, and you don't even want to tell me who she is. Harem is commonplace in Fenghua Great Continent and is the acceptance rule, so naturally I won't mind too much. But the way you want to hide her identity means that you are trying to protect her identity. Is she your junior sister? So you have found someone cute and petite to be with you. You don't want her to be bullied by me, and that is why you are protecting her, am I right? She was actually thinking. Xianxia must be really popular with all his protégé sisters in his cohort, and he was only playing her in his fingers. He is nothing but a playboy. Saintess Xianxia angrily said silently. Don't you dare to blow my cover, Xianxia. I've already found Nangong Shu to be my scapegoat now. It is Saintess Xianxia's lewd juices. Haha. Xianxia immediately owned up awkwardly. Saintess Xianxia. Nangong Shu. Xianxia. Xianxia, do you think that I will believe you that our most sacred Saintess Xianxia will be taken in by your beautiful charms? I don't believe you. If you simply refuse to tell me who you are protecting from, this is over for the two of us forever. No, no. Xianxia panicky said. It is really Saintess Xianxia. All of a sudden there was a soft knock at the outer court and a sweet voice was heard echoing, "Xianlai, are you there?" Elder Xianxia had immediately turned pale for she had recognized the sweet voice to be that of the fairy Yuan. Xianlai was also panicky for Xianxia too, so he quickly said, "Quick! Go under the bed. It is safe in there." In his panic, he had completely forgotten that Saintess Xianxia and Nangong Shu were both under his bed. There were just too many things happening and not enough hiding places. Xianxia immediately hid under the bed while Xianlai rushed out to open the gate to the outer court. As Xianxia vanished into the inside of the bed, she was suddenly shocked to see a naked Saintess Xianxia looking unhappily at her, and there was also Nangong Shu as well. This time she had turned paler and she was even trembling with fear. Xianlai really did not lie to her at all. Saintess Xianxia whispered coldly, "Who did you just call a whore?" Xianxia trembled with fear as she softly greeted her Saintess Xianxia, "Elder Xianxia, pays my respect, to my Saintess, and to right protector Nangong Shu." She had never expected that her Saintess Xianxia and Nangong Shu would be having a threesome in this place. This was really bad timing. Nangong Shu weakly said, "This isn't what you think it is." Chapter 24 A Crowded Night, 3, you are listening at novelfull.audio. By now Xianlai had already hastily opened the gate to the outer court once more and saw the breathtaking loveliness of the fairy Yuan. Fairy Yuan was smiling lovingly at Xianlai, "It is so cold outside. Aren't you going to invite a maiden into your abode?" Although Xianlai was glad to see Fairy Yuan, but he was actually rolling his eyes at her request. It was because his bed was still wet and the space below his bed was quite crowded now. He could not imagine how these three maidens could actually keep quiet under his bed for so long. So he smiled to the Fairy Yuan, "Maybe next time. It is already quite late now." Fairy Yuan was quite startled in her heart for he had actually rejected her advances. One must know that she was a top-grade beauty. Other than Nangong Shu and Saintess Xianxia, there were no others in the Holy Maiden Sanctuary that could be compared to her alluring penetrating beauty. This was her first request to Xianlai and he had actually rejected her. Actually, Xianlai had wanted to invite her, but after what had just happened to Nangong Shu and Xianxia when they had entered his abode, he was already twice bitten shy. Fairy Yuan was now awkward and for the first time she seemed to be lost for words. "Farewell," Xianlai hastily said with some bitterness to his new Carnation Goddess. "Wait Xianlai." Fairy Yuan finally mustered the courage to ask Xianlai. "Do you know Saintess Xianxia? I have heard her calling your name that day. So I know that she knows you quite well and she seems upset with you. But you are still very much alive to this day. May I know why?" Xianlai blinked his eyes, "Huh. Well, we are old acquaintances actually." "Huh. Old acquaintances." Fairy Yuan was startled, "But she sounds like she is going to kill you. And she even issue a slave mark to be issued on you." Xianlai laughed softly, "She is only joking. She is always like this. Don't worry about that. A slave mark actually would not work on a high-level cultivator like Xianlai." Fairy Yuan asked, "And why are you here?" Xianlai smiled with some pride, "I am here to turn Saintess Xianxia into my depraved slave." "Ha!" Fairy Yuan was shocked, "What did you just say?" Saintess Xianxia was now cursing Xianlai. "I am not your depraved slave. Stop dreaming. I am never and will never be. I need to slap you into waking up from your self-delusive thoughts." Nangong Shu and Xianxia gasped with shock silently. "My Saintess is actually Xianlai's depraved slave." Fairy Yuan was trembling. Turning someone into their depraved slave was an evil cultivation art and this Xianlai would actually know something like this. And he could even affect a Saintess cultivation realm cultivator. She stammered out her curiosity, "So have you succeeded?" Xianlai grinned and there was pride in his eyes, "Completely." Fairy Yuan was gasping again. Saintess Xianxia as she covered her face awkwardly as she said to herself. Why did I have to know him? Nangong Shu and Hua Zixia gasped silently. It is no wonder why our saintess is in bed with Xianlai. This Xianlai is too wicked. Fairy Yushuan saw that Xianlai was answering her question, so she got bolder. Why did you do that for? Xianlai began to sigh softly. That is because I have given her two choices. Either be the saintess of my Carnation Goddess painting and be my Carnation Goddess, or be my depraved slave. She actually chooses the second option. Saintess Xianxia felt like digging a hole under the bed now. Nangong Shu and Hua Zixia. What is this Carnation Goddess painting all about? Fairy Yushuan had actually wanted to ask about the Carnation Goddess painting and how did Xianlai had so much power to even affect a saintess to listen to him. You have said that you want to replace me with Saintess Xianxia for your Carnation Goddess painting. What is it all about? All of a sudden Xianlai had placed his right hand on her slender waist and he was saying earnestly, this is a lofty secret of mine. I can't tell anyone just like this. Then he was caressing Fairy Yushuan's, but all of a sudden, normally if any man had dared to touch her, she would cripple his hands, but today she was flustered and could only endure Xianlai's touches. Moreover, he was also a very beautiful man and she could feel that her panties were a little damp from his touches. At this moment, she had remembered his love-making scenes with Elder Hua Zixia and she was gasping that maybe he did have the power to make people into his depraved slaves. Xianlai was now putting his fingers between her butt and stroking her panties from within her flimsy robe. It is not so easy to be my Carnation Goddess and this requires a lot of sacrifices. Fairy Yushuan blankly looked at Xianlai as she was being molested by him. His meaning was very clear and he was hinting to her that she must first become his woman. She trembled as she asked him with a flushed look, if I sacrifice myself then will you tell me the secrets of this Carnation Goddess painting? But why should I sacrifice myself for it? Xianlai smiled gently, it is not so easy to be my Carnation Goddess. First you need to be a saintess in order to partake in my Carnation Goddess painting. Fairy Yushuan was stunned, but I am not a saintess yet. Xianlai smiled and there was a look of confidence in his eyes, I can make you into a saintess. Saintess Xianxia covered her face with shame as she listened. I can't believe that there is someone that can fall into his trick. Want to be a saintess? Do you know that he doesn't even have his profound treasures now? Also you can wait forever for him to finish his Carnation Goddess painting. Do you know that he had previously destroyed his Carnation Goddess painting 33 times in the past? Hua Zixia and Nangong Shu was shocked. He can make Fairy Yushuan into a saintess. Fairy Yushuan gasped with blissful shock, seriously you can. What is your true cultivation realm? Xianlai pretended to cough lightly as he displayed his most handsome posture and he was lifting her robe now to explore what was inside. Since you have found out the truth then I have to reveal who I am to you. I am Grand Sage Saint Xianlai, the strongest cultivator in the entire Fenghua Great Continent. All of a sudden Fairy Yushuan had attacked him with her profound arts and had sent him flying backward into the courtyard of the outer court and he had almost landed with a thunderous impact into the inner court. Fairy Yushuan hummed coldly, I am not a 3-year-old kid. If you can't even evade, block or tank my puny hit, how can I believe that you are actually at the lofty cultivation realm of the Grand Sage Saint? Also, you don't even have the cultivation mark of the golden eyes. You are just pulling my leg. Consider this a lesson for you. I won't tell anyone about our conversations today but this will be the last time that I will be meeting you. As she turned away to leave, she said coldly. You say you can turn Saintess Xianxia into your depraved slave. My foot. To think that I was almost fooled by your honeycomb words. With that she had vanished into the night. There were tears rolling down from Saintess Xianxia, not because Xianlai was beaten up by Fairy Yushuan but because she felt he deserved it and was delighted. Nangong Shu and Hua Zixia were startled for their divine sense could sense that Xianlai was given a powerful kick that would cripple him for months. If Fairy Yushuan had lingered for a while more, she would have noticed that Xianxia was dusting his robe as though nothing had happened to him, and he was muttering, "Well, a gentleman won't argue and fight with a maiden." By now, a naked saintess Xianxia had already got out of the bed and she was laughing. "Xianxia, you are not dead yet." Xianxia muttered, "Can't you see that I am still very much alive?" Saintess Xianxia could not help laughing because Xianxia was a most unusual cultivator. While the other cultivators would display their profound animus to reflect their lofty cultivation realm, Xianxia was unable to do so for some unknown reasons. So he was really not trying to hide his cultivation realm. Moreover, he really was unable to fight well. Xianxia began to sigh softly at his lack of cultivation strength. Today's cultivation was the martial path. But what Xianxia pursued was the lost immortal cultivation art of the scholarly cultivation path to cultivate as an immortal cultivator. Chapter 25 Xianxia True State of Divinity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Fairy Yushuwen had left, there were only 3 maidens that had left. They were Saintess Xingfeiyue, Nangong Shu, and Huazixia. Nangong Shu and Huazixia saw that their Saintess Xingfeiyue looked unusually docile in front of Xianxia, and she was looking at him with plenty of warm affectionate looks. Although she sounded hostile to Xianxia, but her intimate actions for Xianxia had betrayed her. Saintess Xingfeiyue pinched Xianli with a soft chuckle before she sternly said to Nangong Shu and Huazixia, "No one is to say a single word what you have seen today. Is that clear?" Nangong Shu and Huazixia quickly answered, "Your wishes will be abided, my saintess." Then with a most awkward look, the Saintess Xingfeiyue had covered her face as she left hurriedly, after she put on her clothes of course. As for Nangong Shu, she took a last look at Xianxia before she also pinched him as she hurriedly left his abode. Huazixia shyly looked at Xianxia, and just before she had left, she had also pinched him hard. As she left, she was also secretly relieved in her heart. It was because she was actually worried that her affair with Xianxia would be discovered by her Saintess Xingfeiyue or the others, and she would be expulsed from the Holy Maiden Sanctuary. That was why she was forced to ally with Fairy Yushuwen. In the end, her Saintess Xingfeiyue did not say a word on this and had left. She was truly surprised that Nangong Shu and her Saintess Xingfeiyue were both having an affair with Xianxia as well. Xianxia was also speechless that they had all pinched him hard before they had left, and he was muttering, "Why did they have to pinch me so hard for?" All of a sudden he had a weird premonition, and he quickly moved his fingers to calculate. It seemed to him that a grave danger was moving in his direction in a few hours' time. This would be a complete disaster for his abode. So he felt that he had to do something about it, or he would have no shelter for the night. He began to walk rapidly into the cold night and up the mountains. True enough, 2 hours later he saw a large 6th-rank desolate beast. It was really a powerful desolate beasts that require a group of golden core cultivators to defeat. If it was a 7th-rank desolate beast, then it may even need experts of the revolving core and saintess level to deal with it. It was not a desolate monster that any new protege of the Holy Maiden Sanctuary would be able to deal with. In fact, all 199 new proteges of his cohort would be massacred by this desolate monster except for Xianxia. Xianxia sighed softly as he appeared in front of this 6th-rank desolate monster. "You should go back. If you wish to continue further, you may ruin my abode." Ruining the Holy Maiden Sanctuary is a small matter, but ruining my abode is a big matter. The desolate monster actually could not understand the human language, but strangely enough, it was able to understand Xianxia, and Xianxia was able to understand it. "So what if I ruin your abode? I am a powerful desolate monster without an equal in these mountains. Tonight I feel like making some havoc. This is my chaotic nature. What can you do against me?" With that, the desolate monster had suddenly raised its 10 tentacles in a whirlwind attack as it attempted to destroy and crush any opposition against it. Even for Xianxia, he was struck by one of the tentacles and was sent crashing onto the mountain sides with a loud impact. Normally any cultivator would be broken on the spot by such a powerful profound attack. But the desolate monster was startled to see that Xianxia had got up and he was dusting his robe while muttering, "This hurts. Then Shenlai heaved a soft sigh, I did warn you. I guess that I have to let the Tao of my heart demon to deal with you now. With that there seemed to be a transformation in Shenlai's eyes and it had suddenly become a bright golden color and even his air had suddenly changed. The desolate monster did not hesitate all this while and it unleashed all its 10 barked armored tentacles, each one of it that was capable of hurting and killing a gold core cultivator onto Shenlai. But Shenlai just moved forward with like a shadow and evaded tens of profound attacks in just a few blinks of an eye. Before the desolate monster knew what was happening, Shenlai had flashed next to it and had touched its thick armored head. You don't even have any profound animus or divine weapons. What are you trying to do? The desolate monster roared in mockery of Shenlai. But barely had it said that, Shenlai had crushed its cultivation core from within and the desolate monster had fallen down dead with just a weak roar, impossible, soul cultivator. Shenlai sighed softly as he reverted to his usual self, I did warn you. So what if you have an armored body and can regenerate instantly? In the end, you will still die. This is your destined fate for not listening to me. With that, he had started to walk back to his abode as though nothing had just happened. He took a look at the dark heavens above and sighed quietly, he did not want to become just an immortal but a true divinity. Years ago, he had already known that if he could get his Carnation Goddess painting right, then his cultivation realm would not stop at just the immortal level but would transcend to that of a true divinity. Therefore, he had to build all his foundations right in this divine realm. To do so, he had already created 99 powerful profound treasures and he had one more to go now. The profound treasures that he had created were actually destined to be scattered in the Fenghua Great Continent and they were his gifts to this divine realm. Therefore he was not concerned if he had lost some of his profound treasures to his 7 saintesses since they were destined to be their new owners. Before he had met the 7 saintesses, he had already scattered some of his profound treasures to even the demonic races. Shenlai actually did not have any pain points to his cultivation realms, he would miraculously overcome his divine calamities and lightning tribulations with an auspicious omen rather than facing the real tribulations of cultivation. It was because he had already faced his daily tribulations in the form of a weak scholar. As a matter of fact, this was already like the 8 times that he had lost his cultivation core, most times on purpose. But each time he could cultivate it back quickly and his speed of cultivation would only increase even more rapidly. Chapter 26 Not a Quiet Night, R18, you are listening at novelfull.audio. In the same dark night, Fairy Yushuwen had walked into the cool mountains. There was a fat man that was seemingly waiting for her in the hidden forest and there was even a defensive array that nullified all the sounds within. When Fairy Yushuwen had arrived, she was quite startled. It was because she was here to look for that fat man but instead, she saw him naked with a coyly-looking maiden cultivator and she was also naked. This fat man was in the same awakened cultivation realm as her and was a peaked awakened cultivator. However, he could not advance to the saint cultivation realm anymore because he had once offended Saintess Qian Yufeng of the Verdant Rain Manor and she had sealed his cultivation core. This caused this fat man who called himself the Divine Emperor Murong Jinshan to be infuriated in his dark heart. Therefore day and night, he would scheme against the Saintess Qian Yufeng to no ends. Dilvico as a matter of fact, his celestial clan the Grand Emperor Divine Swords or the Grand Emperor Divine Swords sect was actually part of Saintess Qian Yufeng's holy land. But this was not always the case. Before Saintess Qian Yufeng had come to dominate her holy land of the Verdant Rain Manor 100 years ago, his clan was without doubt the powerhouse in the region. However, Saintess Qian Yufeng had driven him out and had taken away his cultivation mountains by force and had changed the name of the Grand Emperor Divine Swords sect to the Verdant Rain Manor. Although her holy land was the Verdant Rain Manor and was only the 6th largest, Saintess Qian Yufeng was still a saintess and not someone that could be easily defeated by his schemes. However, he could still keep trying because her holy land was still quite small when compared to the top 3 holy lands of the Saintess Palace, the Snow Flora and the Holy Ascension Citadel. Lately the Saintess Palace had been too aggressive and this had given him a chance to scheme against the Verdant Rain Manor and the Holy Maiden Sanctuary. As Divine Emperor Murong Jinshan was now clanless, it was even harder for Saintess Qian Yufeng to track him down, especially when he was not even in her Holy Land sphere of influence. He had always cursed the day when the 7 holy saintesses had descended suddenly to take over the Fenghua Great Continent rapidly. No one knows their origins except that they were extremely powerful in the saintess cultivation realm, and they had plenty of profound treasures. Those few cultivators that were at the saint/saintess cultivation realms, including a sage saint cultivator, were quickly massacred by them. Together they were invincible, and it was rumored that even the mythical cultivation level of the Grand Sage Saint cannot be even compared to their combined cultivation strength. Right now the Divine Emperor Murong Jinshan was not doing anything divine at all. He was naked and was playing with a coyly-looking naked maiden. Fairy Yushuan was not surprised that the fat man whom she had to call Uncle Murong was naked, but the fact that this coyly-looking naked maiden was actually Han Quechen, the protege sect leader of the Purity Jade Lofty Peaks, and that she was also one of the 30 top beauties in the entire Fenghua Great Continent had surprised her. Murong Jinshan was smiling when he saw that it was Fairy Yushuan. She had used a profound tracker to find him, so he was not surprised that she knew of his hiding place in the mountains. At this moment, he was holding the buttocks of the Han Quechen and he was banging her hard while her beasts were swinging in his ugly face. Right now Han Quechen was moaning out lewdly, and she was also shaking hard as though she could not get enough. She did not care if Fairy Yushuan was around, and she had an expression of great ecstasy. Fairy Yushuan could see that Han Quechen too opened holy lands from where she was standing, and that Han Quechen's second holy land was already wide opened. Instantly she could feel the dampness between her jaded legs as her panties got wet. Murong Jinshan laughed as he said to Fairy Yushuan, "Do you want to get into my bed as well? We are enjoying ourselves now." Fairy Yushuan bitterly said, "No thanks. I am just surprised that even a renowned beauty like Han Quechen, who is the protege sect leader of the Purity Jade Lofty Peaks, will also be your depraved slave. How did you manage to do so?" Murong Jinshan laughed with some pride. "It isn't my fault, but she has delivered herself to me. She wants to reach the awakened cultivation realm, and I have pretended that I can help her. After all, I am a peaked awakened cultivator myself." Fairy Yushuan felt a pity for Han Quechen. As her uncle Murong's depraved slave, her cultivation realm was unable to advance anymore, and she could not even betray him. This was a most horrible ending to a lofty cultivation figure like Han Quechen. Fairy Yushuan merely said to her uncle Murong to hide her disgust for him, "It seems that Han Quechen isn't lofty as her mountain lofty peak, nor is she as pure and jade as her sect name." Murong Jinshan ignored her taunts. "Unfortunately, you are not a man and can't feel her, but I can allow you to feel how bliss she is." "Enough," Fairy Yushuan coldly said. "No one knows that we are distantly related. I am only establishing my holy land for myself and not for you." Murong Jinshan laughed, "But you need an old cultivator like myself to establish your holy land. Or else can you defeat the 7 holy saintesses all by yourself?" To differentiate between a normal saintess and the 7 saintesses, the word holy saintess was added to their titles. Fairy Yushuan hummed, "I've come to tell you that Saintess Xianxia seems to be quite mindful by a profound treasure called the Carnation Goddess painting. I want you to help me to dig up more information on this." She did not tell him that Xianlai had suggested that she became his Carnation Goddess. As for Xianlai, he was probably crippled by now, and maybe he was just the young protege of someone even more powerful. She was not in a hurry to find out for the time being. She was actually still quite angry that Xianlai had rejected her and did not allow her, one of the 12 great beauties of Fenghua Great Continent, to enter his abode. So she had kicked his non-vital part, and he would spend some time in bed now. So what if he had such a beautiful face? At this moment, she was actually thinking of his naked scenes with Xianxia instead of Murong Jinshan and Han Quechen. Murong Jinshan laughed, "I will check this information. It is not just for you but for myself as well." "Good." With that Fairy Yushuan had departed. Murong Jinshan smiled as he said quietly, "One day you will be mine." And I will make Saintess Qian Yufeng and Saintess Xianxia mine as well. Fairy Yu Shuwen was on her way back to the Holy Maiden Sanctuary when she had suddenly found a sight that stunned her. In front of her was Shenlai that was uninjured. In fact, he was evading a 6th-rank desolate monster with such impossible speed and not even getting hit once. Then with one soft clap of his hand on the desolate monster's armored head, the 6th-rank desolate monster had fallen dead onto the ground dead and had dispersed all of its powerful profound animus. This was something that even Fairy Yu Shuwen with all her lofty sword profound arts were unable to do. In fact, she had no confidence that she could even defeat a 6th-rank desolate monster before her profound strength ran out. She was stunned as she quietly watched the gentleman figure of Shenlai walked away hastily, although the terrain was rough but Shenlai always maintained a steady walk without being affected by the uneven terrain. This was extremely difficult especially when it was dark now. Fairy Yu Shuwen could not believe how wrong she had been when she had judged Shenlai too soon. Who is he? She had suddenly remembered Shenlai telling her, I am the Grand Sage Saint Shenlai. No, this is impossible. No one can reach the Grand Sage Saint cultivation realm and not be renowned long before that. All of a sudden she was trembling as she remembered another thing that Shenlai had told her, must I really sacrifice myself first in order to become his Carnation Goddess in order to learn his secret? Or is it just a trick to turn me into his depraved slave just like Xianxia? Chapter 27 The Herbalism Room. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At dawn, Shenlai was now on his way to the outer court of the Holy Maiden Sanctuary for his cultivation practice. As the distance between his abode and the outer court of the Holy Maiden Sanctuary was more than 1 hour away, he had to get up very early in the wee morning. It was not something that he had actually minded since he did not need much of a sleep. Along the way he sniffed something in the outer court and saw a strange room with plenty of herbs and runic writings in it. Curious, he took a quick look and saw that someone was making some 3rd-rank profound pills here and it was the profound regaining strength pills. Titan profound pills. He muttered as he scanned his eyes on the ingredients. Although the herbs are right but unfortunately the Titan profound pills will only yield 10% of its usual strength. And 9 out of 10 of the profound pills will also fail. This is actually a great waste of the ingredients. He then rolled his eyes and saw that there was no one around. So he quickly inspected the herb ingredients to destroy the unnecessary and to filter the herbs to the exact composite. A high-level herbalist would take hours to accomplish what Shenlai could have done with the herbs filtering but he had only taken 15 minutes. But then a high-level herbalist may not be able to get the desired purity as what Shenlai could have done. His eyes and fingers were moving so fast in that instant that no one could believe that a lowly cultivator would be able to accomplish such a feat, but Shenlai was a master in creating wondrous profound treasures and to him, creating perfect 3rd-rank profound pills were just second nature to him. In fact, other than combat, he was highly proficiency in all the cultivation arts such as alchemy, arrays, runic talisman, poisons, metallurgy etc. After he was done, he had sneaked out of the room. An old man had seen his back and he was suddenly cursing Shenlai although he did not know his name at this point of time. But he had recognized his robe as the lowest-ranking outer court protégé in the Holy Maiden Sanctuary. But he seemed to recognize the jade pendant that was hanging on Shenlai's belt as the young man that he had seen days before. He panicky entered his herbalist room and was heard cursing aloud, "You little rascal. I was only joking with you on the exotic arts and yet you have really come into the Holy Maiden Sanctuary to ruin my hard work. What is his name again? I have forgotten to ask him." Shenlai had actually destroyed 70% of his precious herbs onto the ground and then he had thrown the rest into the burning furnace to be made into the Titan profound pills. A couple of days ago, this old man had actually met a scholarly young man on the road. When he had asked him where he was going, he had told him that he was looking for the 7 saintesses to finish a painting of his. When the old man had heard him, he began to laugh at the naivety of this young man so he said to him, "The only way you can get to them is to make them into your 7 depraved saintesses. Or else you are not going to have a chance to even catch their skirts." The young man growled, how do I make them into my 7 depraved saintesses? The old man then handed an exotic book to this young man, well, since I like you and I think you are also quite a charming young man. This book will teach you how to bang the young maidens. When they are under your charms, they will naturally be your depraved slaves. Ha! The young man began to ponder solemnly, you mean I am not charming in the past? The old man had asked him, have you ever banged a maiden before and feel between her 2 legs? The young man frowned, I did feel a maiden between her 2 legs before but I have never banged them before. The old man knocked the head of the young man immediately, idiot. Then you are an old virgin. You need to bang them to become irresistible. The young man seemed to have an enlightenment as he started to flip the exotic book that the old man had given him, irresistible. I have to become irresistible then, so I have to lose my first time. The old man chuckled, not just your first time, your second and third time as well. The more the better. And you also have to dominate all the buds of their holy lands. And then I will have the charms to complete my Carnation Goddess painting. The young man asked curiously. The old man asked, what is it this Carnation Goddess painting all about? The young man answered with some pride, I'm going to get all the 7 saintesses to pose in a lewd posture for me to complete this Carnation Goddess painting. The old man awkwardly said after looking stunned, well, good luck to you. I have the same dreams as you 2 in the past but I am too old to charm them anyway. I am glad that you have this lofty aspiration. With that the old man had quickly bid the young man farewell while muttering to himself, I've thought that I am a pervert but this young man is the real pervert here. The young man's eyes were glittering as though he had just beheld a great profound treasure as he flipped the pages of the graphical book that was given to him. He began to mutter, this is a most holy book to make them all submit to me. Back to the present. 3 days later in the future and in the herbalist room, the same old man was surprised that he had 10 perfectly third-rank Titan profound pills and every one of them was shining with a beautiful luster. He was so shocked that his old fingers were trembling, this is impossible, this is impossible. I must give it to our saintess Xianxia immediately. Then he had remembered that young man that had entered his herbalist room that day, he is a genius. He is a genius. Chapter 28 The Holy Pinnacle Swordplay. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Same day when Xianxia had nosed around in the herbalism room. He had just entered the outer court where all the new protégés were gathering when there were many laughs and jeers from the new protégés that were inside. Isn't this Xianxia? He has the worst result during our first cultivation lesson. He can't even aim properly. Xianxia walked to the 199 new protégés and said respectfully to them, my fellow Dao protégés, Xianxia greets everyone good morning. A bulky cultivator interrupted him and he was called Fatty Xiongba, in case you don't know this yet. We are going for our first experiential training in 1 week time. Are you sure that you can survive a fight against a desolate beast? A slender male cultivator named Chu Feng was also smirking, even a second-rank desolate beast will be able to kill him. I don't wish to be part of his team at the end of the month. Xianxia gasped shockingly, there is an experiential training. Can I be exempted? He was too lazy to go for any experiential trainings and he would rather meditate to keep his mind focused on his cultivation. But when he had said that, all the protégés, males and females were all laughing at him jovially. A short man who was a full head shorter than Xianxia called Shortuli had walked angrily toward him and he was suddenly patting Xianxia's tall shoulder with an assuring look, how dare you mock at my brother Xianxia? From today onward, I shall be his protector. If anyone has an issue with Xianxia, you can look for me directly. Xianxia started to look down at this Shortuli and he had a blank look. He did not mean to look down on him but he was really short, so he had to look down and not because he was looking down with an arrogant look on Shortuli. Shortuli grinned to Xianxia, from today onward, you are my brother and I will protect you like a close brother. When Shortuli had declared his intentions, Xiongba, Chu Feng and many of the new protégés were all laughing non-stop, they could see Xianxia protecting Shortuli instead of the other way round. I remember this short Yulai. He was the second worst protege during the cultivation lesson. A young maiden named Mei Xian giggled softly. This Mei Xian was really beautiful, and she was the most beautiful maiden in the cultivation cohort. Many of the male cultivators like Chu Feng and Fatty Xiong Ba were already interested in her. When she had mentioned this, many of the new proteges were laughing jovially now. It is no wonder that they are together. Birds of the same flock will always fly together. I remember this short Yulai now. He too short to aim his targets. But he is better than Shenlai, he had passed eventually. But Shenlai did not even pass. Shenlai immediately looked at short Yulai. I don't need your protection. Short Yulai immediately dragged him away. Nonsense. Can't you see that we are being bullied by these arrogant young masters and mistresses? If we are united, no one shall rock us. Not even the 9th rank desolate beasts. Do you know how powerful a 9th rank desolate beast is? There is the standard, profound, epic, immortal, etc. Shenlai pointed out with a weak smile. Short Yulai forced him to sit down as he said firmly, I shall be your rock. Don't you worry, brother. Shenlai. 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 I don't need a male. At this moment Elder Li Hong had just entered the training courtyard with 2 other assistant elders and 8 senior proteges. You are all here already. As she had said that, the 8 senior proteges were going around to look at everyone, for they had memorized the faces of everyone in this cohort of 200. Elder Li Hong, they are all here. The 8 senior proteges said one by one. Elder Li Hong smiled. As some of you may have already know, in 1 week time there we will have our experiential training for you in the mountains to fight the desolate beasts, and we may even encounter the demonic cultivators. But this will be your first stage test to become a true cultivator of the outer court. That is, if you are able to pass. So, any questions? Shenlai was the first to put his hand to ask, how long will this experiential training last? 1 week. Elder Li Hong answered him. Shenlai stumbled backward with shock. 1 week without seeing Saintess Xingfian, Nangong Shu or Elder Hua Zixia were too much. When the new proteges saw him stumbling backward, they were all laughing jovially at him. Elder Li Hong smiled, this time I won't be allocating the groups for you. You will all choose a leader yourself and form a group of 20 proteges. This will be a test of your leadership and bonding ability. Then she pointed at the walls of the outer court. You have only 1 week to practice our holy pinnacle swordplay on that wall. If you are able to learn it well, then one day you will be able to defeat cultivators that are 2 realms higher than you. When she had said that, all the new proteges immediately rushed to the wall to try their best to understand the holy pinnacle swordplay. All the new proteges except Shenlai, of course. It was because this holy pinnacle swordplay was a rubbish swordplay that Shenlai had once imparted to Saintess Xingfian. And he had told her the exact same thing that Elder Li Hong had said to everyone, one day you will be able to defeat cultivators that are 2 realms higher than you. It was a blatant lie, of course. It was because all the secret cultivation arts would all promise the cultivators that they would be able to defeat anyone that was 1 or 2 realms higher if they work hard for it. If they could not, then it would only mean that they either did not work hard for it or had low talent. Now if all the cultivation arts would be so superior, then it would all cancel one another out. The problem was, this was not true. The only true martial cultivation profound art was always one hit kill one opponent, not any fanciful profound arts. Chapter 29 Jia, and you are listening at novelfull.audio. The training courtyard of the outer court was actually very big, and it had many pavilions, trees, and many places to rest. Elder Li Hong smiled wryly. From this day onward to the day of the experiential training, all of you shall remain in this place. I want all of you to have a sense of crisis and bonding when you are forming your teams. So hurry and make new friends. As for us, we won't interfere in what you are doing because we won't even be appearing in this courtyard except to deliver food to you. If you want to shower or pee, please use the facilities in here. When she had said all of this, she had actually left. Xianxia was startled. That means that I can't leave this place for 1 week. This, and with the experiential training, it means that I can't see Saintess Xianxia, Nangong Shu or Hua Zixia for 2 weeks. Short Yulai whispered to Xianxia as he interrupted his thoughts, look. These new protégés are all forming their groups now. Shall we make some friends and form our new group of friends first? Xianxia laughed gently, don't worry. There will be 10 groups and eventually one group will have 18 cultivators. Even if we don't do anything, we will still have a group. Then this group won't be a group of our choosing. We need a group with all the beauties in it. Short Yulai laughed softly. Xianxia gasped, a group with all the beauties in there. Beside Mei Xian, there were also the 2 coily twin sisters Su Shaoqing and Su Shaoxing and other beauties in the cohort. Short Yulai was now pulling him around. Many were either practicing the holy pinnacle swordplay, their foundation profound arts, family profound arts, or were making friends. This outer courtyard actually had many places which the protégés could use as their training chambers and they could hide their family profound arts. Many of the new protégés were actually from the other celestial clans and many were even the great scions from these celestial clans. As the Holy Maiden Sanctuary was the holy land of these celestial clans, everyone considered it their honor to join the Holy Maiden Sanctuary. As everyone was now dispersed, Xianxia and Short Yulai began to search for the beauties group to join. Soon along the corridor, they saw Mei Xian with Xiong Ba. But when Xiong Ba and Mei Xian saw that it was actually Xianxia, they had a most disdainful look and in front of them, they began to be intimate with their bodies and kissed with their lips. It was as though they were saying to Xianxia that he had no chance with them and could only watch. Mei Xian was giggling, look whose is here. They are Xianxia and Short Yulai. Xiong Ba began to laugh too and he had purposely turned Mei Xian but to face them before he flashed her short skirt by lifting it up so that they could see Mei Xian's thin black panties as he fingered between her 2 legs. Short Yulai hummed coldly as he pulled away Xianxia, let's go elsewhere. We don't need this group. Xianxia was protesting, actually we don't have to be in such a hurry. We got 1 week to form our group. Short Yulai shook his head, you are too young, too simple. Can't you see that they are already forming their own alliances today? If we wait until the last day then it will be too late. Therefore we must find a group to slot ourselves inside so we can pass the experiential training to remain in the Holy Maiden Sanctuary. Xianxia asked curiously, to remain in the Holy Maiden Sanctuary. What do you mean? Short Yulai stared at Xianxia, you mean you did not know that you will be expulsed if you can't pass the experiential training? Xianxia shook his head quietly, I don't but this isn't too hard to pass, right? Short Yulai looked shocked, you and me can't even aim properly. In a melee with the desolate beast, we will surely die. If we can't find a strong group then we can only find a weak and a pig team. That will be a complete disastrous for us. Xianxia smiled, I don't think so. Short Yulai began to pull Xianxia along with him, follow me brother. Xianxia protested weakly, brother Short Yulai, don't be too impatient. Soon, they had come to a chamber and saw the 2 coily young maidens Su Shaoqing and Su Shaoxing and they were with Chu Feng. However their clothes were all scattered on the ground. Right now, they could see that the twin sisters were naked with Chu Feng and they were copulating in secret inside the chamber. Short Yulai was startled to see this and he was sighing, all the beauties are taken by these influential young masters, we don't stand a chance now. Xianxia rolled his eyes, I say brother Short Yulai, you do not seem to be looking for a powerful group but a group with many beauties. Short Yulai chuckled weakly as he pulled Xianxia to whisper to him, during the experiential training, all these young maidens will be offering their bodies to us for protection. This is our only chance to take advantage of them. Xianxia stared at Short Yulai with some disdain, farewell brother Short Yulai. He quickly hastened his steps to lose track of Short Yulai. But as soon as he had turned a corner, he saw a beautiful maiden with a hood over her, and she had also happened to look in his direction. This maiden was actually Jiaying, and she always had an icy look. However, her beauty was not beneath Mei Xian and could even be comparable to Hua Zixia if she did not always display an ugly and icy look. So it is fellow protégé Xianlai. With that, she had already turned her face around, unwilling to look at Xianlai anymore. Xianlai was actually surprised that Jiaying did not display any look of disdain on him, so he laughed softly behind her. Why is such a astonishing beauty hiding in this corner? Shouldn't you be forming your own group and to practice the holy pinnacle swordplay? Jiaying answered softly, this is none of your business. Xianlai said gently, but if a great beauty is to lose her beauty because of some unhappiness, then this is my business. Why don't you share with me and maybe I can help you? Jiaying appeared to be jolted as she turned to look at Xianxia with a bitter smile. My father, the sect leader of the Crescent Moon Citadel, is saddled with 10,000 high-grade spirit stones in debt, and I will be marrying someone that I do not love soon. Can you help? Xianlai pondered for a while before he took out a piece of translucent jade. This spiritual jade is worth 1 million high-grade spirit stone. You can have it. As for marrying someone that you do not love, I am afraid that I won't be able to help you. When Jiaying saw the translucent jade, she was shocked. This was the luminous spirit stone that Xianlai had shown her, and each one could be exchangeable only for 1 million high-grade stones. And in the black market, it could even be worth much, much higher. A luminous spirit stone was higher in grade than the low-grade spirit stone and the high-grade spirit stone. Not only that, if a cultivator could have luminous spirit stone to cultivate for their breakthrough, it would increase their chances of a breakthrough. But the problem with the luminous spirit stone was that it was far too rare, and only the richest cultivator would even have one. Jiaying was trembling now as she stared at Xianlai. This is really for me. Is there a condition? Such as? She had suddenly become very flustered all of a sudden as she could imagine Xianlai touching all over her while banging her hard. Xianlai gently put the luminous spirit stone in her hands and said, don't worry. I still have plenty of these. As long as a beautiful maiden such as you are happy again, I will be glad too. Farewell. With that, Xianlai had hastily walked away, for he wanted to get away from Xianlai as far as possible. Jiaying stared after Xianlai as she muttered, what sort of background does he have in order to be able to freely give away a luminous spirit stone without any condition? Chapter 30 Jiaying kisses Xianlai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xianlai was sitting in a quiet pavilion because none of the protégés were willing to talk to him except for Xianlai. Xianlai was now trying to make new friends now, and he had left Xianlai alone for now. So finally Xianlai was able to have some peace as he sat in the quiet pavilion all by himself, and he was not concerned in making himself stronger for the experiential training. His first thought was naturally to sneak out when it was dark. The tall walls could not really confine him in this place. And that was why he had appeared to be so relaxed. Even if he did not escape from this place, he knew that Saintess Xianxia would probably rescue him from this place. Saintess Xianxia was not as cold as she looks, and she had her playful side which she was only willing to display to Xianlai. Most of her threats were just hot air threats to provoke a reaction from him, and Xianlai knew she was never serious about carrying it out. Just as Xianlai was musing over his first day of confinement, a stunning maiden with a coyly smile had suddenly appeared in the courtyard of this quiet pavilion. Many of the new protégés that were near Xianlai was dropping what they were doing and was looking at this stunning maiden. And behind this stunning maiden, were tens of new protégés who were following her, and that included Xianlai, Chu Feng, Xiongba, Mei Xian, Su Shaoqing and Su Shaoxing. It was as though they had never seen this bewitching stunning maiden before. She was actually Jiaying, and she had tidy up on her appearances. Her transformation was stunning, and even Xianlai could not believe this already beautiful maiden was a great beauty on par with Hua Zixia and even Nangong Shu. Her eyes were serene, and she was moving like a beautiful willow toward Xianlai. When Xianlai saw her, he was stammering with disbelief. You are Jiaying. Jiaying coquettishly chuckled with her alluring countenance upon Shenlai, we have only parted for only a short while and you can't recognize me already. As she said that, everyone was muttering. How did she know Shenlai? Is this really the Jiaying that we know? She is really Jiaying. She is actually such a great beauty when she isn't with her dull expression. She seems spirited now. I want her to be in my group. No. She is mine. She is looking for Shenlai. Why is she looking for that useless Shenlai? Just as Shenlai was wondering why Jiaying was looking for him, she had suddenly bent over to kiss Shenlai on his lips, stunning him. Shenlai was stunned and he was stammering, what is this for? Her kiss was refreshing and even intoxicating. If given another chance, Shenlai would not hesitate to kiss her again. All the new protégés could not believe their eyes when they saw the scene, and many of the male protégés were even angry with Shenlai now. He has such a good luck. Jiaying has kissed Shenlai. Jiaying whispered softly to him, I have no way of repaying you. Therefore I've decided to pledge myself to you. Shenlai was too startled as he immediately said, No, no. This won't do. I am a useless protégé. Jiaying whispered for his ears only, I don't believe. Because I have watched you that day. While everyone is mocking you, you have actually able to muster your profound energies 300 times. Usually no one can even muster even 50 times. You must be hiding your cultivation realm. Then she displayed a look of melancholy in her eyes, My lord, do you despise me? Shenlai was smiling bitterly to himself. It was not easy to pledge to him because he had an extremely high criteria when it comes to choosing his Carnation Goddess. Moreover, she did not know how powerful the 7 saintesses were when they were being provoked by a low-level cultivator. Shenlai. You are not training here and you are instead having fun here. A familiar voice had suddenly interrupted them and Shenlai was startled to see that it was from Elder Xianxia. And behind her was Elder Li Hong and the 2 assistant elders. Didn't Elder Li Hong says she won't be entering the training courtyard? All the new protégés were immediately respectfully paying their respects to Elder Xianxia, Elder Li Hong and the 2 assistant elders. Elder Xianxia said with an unpleasant look, Shenlai, our saintess may have spared your life but you can't escape from the usual sex punishments. I am ordered to bring you to our saintess for your daily 20 floggings. Shenlai rolled his eyes. Can't she think of something better? I still don't have my contribution points yet. When Elder Xianxia had mentioned the floggings, many of the new protégés were gasping with shock and were shaking their heads. Even Jiaying was horrified that Shenlai would be given 20 whips of floggings. Elder Xianxia ordered the 2 assistant elders, take him away. Shenlai hurried to Xianxia and he was so glad to break away from Jiaying and he was muttering, this is too sinful. Jiaying was too young for him and he did not want to ruin such a good maiden.